Hello and welcome to yet another interesting English language class. My name is Precious Balogun. We'll be looking at an interesting topic, words of 6 syllables stressed on 5th syllable, under the theme, Oracy Skills Spoken English. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to 1. Recognize the words of 6 syllables stressed on the 5th syllable. Also, pronounce 6-syllable words which have their stress on the 5th syllable correctly. And lastly, use the 6-syllable words correctly in a piece of writing. We have established in our previous class on words of 4 syllables that a word is made up of 1 or more syllables. A syllable is a pronounceable unit of words. Let's take a look at some examples. We have chair, which is made up of 1 syllable. We have table, which is made up of 2 syllables. We have information, which is made up of 4 syllables. And lastly, we have discontinuity, which is made up of 5 syllables. Now, this brings us to syllable count. A syllable is named according to its number. A word of 1 syllable is known as a monosyllabic word. Secondly, a word of 2 syllables is known as a bisyllabic or disyllabic word. Moving on, a word of 3 syllables is known as a trisyllabic word. And lastly, a word of 4 or more syllables is known as a polysyllabic word. Now, let's take a look at some examples of the different syllable counts. For words of 1 syllable, we have strong, sure, come, go, sit, one, day, and each. For words of 2 syllables, we have carpet, table, comfort, report, contest, import, over, and angel. For words of 3 syllables, we have elephant, different, effective, adequate, banana, beautiful, electric, and dangerous. Lastly, for words of 4 or more syllables, we have intelligent, communication, beautification, imperialism, operational, utilitarian, copulation, and lastly, acceptability. Now, this brings us to our topic proper, words of 6 syllables. Words of 6 syllables are also known as hexasyllabic words. These are words made up of 6 syllables. Let's take a look at some examples. We have circumnavigation, incomprehensible, discontinuity, responsibility, internalization, indistinguishable, generalization, ceremonialism, differentiation, categorization, hospitalization, encyclopedia, and so on. Having looked at words of 6 syllables, let's take a look at stress placement on these words. First, let's remind ourselves on stress. Stress is the emphasis placed on a particular word. This means that particular syllable is pronounced longer and louder than other syllables in that word. Now, let's take a look at stress on hexasyllabic words. Hexasyllabic words can be stressed on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th syllable. Let's take a look at some examples. For hexasyllabic words stressed on the 2nd syllable, we have words like imaginatively and discriminatory. For words of 6 syllables stressed on the 3rd syllable, we have ceremonialism, For words of 6 syllables stressed on the 4th syllable, we have superintendency, invisibility, and encyclopedia. And lastly, for hexasyllabic words stressed on the 5th syllable, we have animalization, collectivization, desertification, initialization, and minimalization. Now, let's look at 6-syllable words stressed on the 5th syllable. Words of 6 syllables that end with IC or TION are stressed on the 5th syllable. Let's take a look at some examples. For words of 6 syllables that end with IC, we have bacteriostatic, antineoplastic, aristogenetic, anti-diabetic, and lastly we have acephalocystic. For words that end with TION, we have generalization, identification, personification, capitalization, rationalization, and lastly, characterization. Some other words of 6 syllables stressed on the 5th syllable are actinomycosis, capitalization, collectivization, desertification, immunodiffusion, personification, excommunication, plasmodesmata, prestidigitation. We have onomatopoeia, circumnavigation, sesquicentennial, experimentation, and lastly we have exemplification. Having gone through the words of 6 syllables stressed on the 5th syllable, let's have a listening practice together. Sentence 1. It was just a mere experimentation of power. Sentence 2. He asked for an identification before I was let into the hall. Sentence 3. Since the first circumnavigation of the globe, there has been several attempts to travel round the world. And lastly, sentence 4. It is a hasty generalization to say all men are the same. The words experimentation, identification, circumnavigation, and generalization are words of 6 syllables and they are all stressed on the 5th syllable. This is where we draw the curtain for today's class. Let's go on to see all we've learnt so far. We've learnt that a syllable is a single pronounceable unit of a word. We've also learnt that words of 6 syllables are also known as hexasyllabic words. Also, we've learnt that stress is the emphasis placed on a particular syllable in a word or a particular word in a phrase or sentence. And lastly, we learnt that words of 6 syllables that end with IC or TION are stressed on the 5th syllable. Question 1. Which of the following is a hexasyllabic word? A. Nominalization. B. Dissimulation. C. Accommodation. Or D. Illumination. The correct answer is A. Nominalization. Question 2. Where does the stress fall in this word? Criminalization. A. First syllable. B. Third syllable. C. Fourth syllable. Or D. Fifth syllable. The correct answer is D. Fifth syllable. It is pronounced criminalization. Thank you for your time. Until we meet again, see you and bye.